Hello, everybody. Welcome to my next episode of An Espresso with Riccardo. I'm here with Benjamin Drury, the culture guy. My name is Riccardo. I'm a creative producer and brand photographer. So, Benjamin, welcome to my Espresso. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, Riccardo. Thank you for inviting me. Really looking forward to chatting with you.
Great. So, Benjamin, let's get started. So, briefly, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Benjamin Drury, otherwise known as the culture guy, and I help organizations build culture, build workplaces where their people can thrive, build something that matters and that people can come to work excited about what they do.
Great. That's a good pitch. So today we're going to talk about storytelling and culture. But first of all, let's quickly talk about culture. So who needs culture and why is it important for a company to have a good culture?
Well, the bottom line is every company has a culture. When two people come together for a purpose, a shared culture will form. You'll come up with ways of working. You'll come up with a shared understanding of the world. You come up with a shared set of values and a shared way of doing things. That will define your culture and how your business expresses itself and how your business appears to people. So whether you like it or not, you've got a culture. The question is, are you in control of it or is it happening organically? And often if it happens organically, it doesn't end up where you want it.
Yeah, very, very inspiring. Let's talk about storytelling and culture. So what's your take on that?
Well, the thing about brand and organizations and storytelling is people will make up stories about who you are. They will see things and they will interpret things. They will interpret messages. They will interpret interactions. They will interpret the things that you put out there through your marketing, through all sorts of media that they kind of interact with you. And they'll make up stories about you. And how they make up those stories depends on those interactions. And the thing about culture is if you get it right, and if everybody understands the values of the organization and everybody has the space to operate within that culture, all the stories that people tell about you will line up. All the interactions will say the same thing. People will experience you as an organization in a certain way, no matter what the touch point or who they talk to, when everybody's pulling in the same direction, when your culture is really thriving. And therefore, you'll have an authentic experience and your brand will be what you want it to be. People's interpretation of who you are will be as you want it to be. When that culture isn't firing on all cylinders, when not everybody's playing the same game, those interactions will be different. Those touch points will give different experiences, and that'll give a very mixed message and a very different story about who you are as an organization. So culture really is at the heart of storytelling.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Are you saying that in a way, before design, before marketing, branding, any kind of social media strategy, you've got to have a good culture?
Absolutely. Before you can do any of that, you should really nail down who you are and what you stand for and what your values are, because that is going to infect everything else in your organization and all the messaging and all the marketing and all the interactions and the way you operate your phone systems and the way you treat people that come into your building, the way you decorate your stores, the way you hire people, everything, the dress code, and all that is going to tell a story to people who are interacting with you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I wanted to touch more on something else. So we talked about culture, but also we mentioned branding, design, storytelling, and film photography, which are part of any kind of communication that you have, social medias as well. So let's assume that you have a good culture. You've been working with someone like you to develop your culture, and you're kind of happy with that. You're hitting all the right point. You got your values sorted and your mission is clear. So how is important the rest, what happens after, so sharing and communicating your culture through branding, design, film, photography. And also I just wanted to briefly mention the fact that, you have a great, you came up with a great name, the culture guy. So I know you have quite an interesting and unusual background because you've been working in theatre, I know you've been involved with web designs as well, with photography. So you're a very creative person. So how do the two really go together, you think?
It's fascinating. Now, I'm a big proponent of Shakespeare and all the worlds of theatre and all the men and women merely players. Now, actually, it is very much like that. We're always on show, and particularly as a business and organization, there's always somebody watching how you do things, what you say, how you go about business, ready to kind of hammer you when you get it wrong often. And so if you have your culture right and everybody understands the value base and everybody's playing in that space, there's a lot more freedom to allow people to speak on your behalf, because they're going to reflect the right value base. They're going to understand it. And what often happens is when you've got a really strong culture, what I call a cult-like business, your marketing and the way you interact with people, it just overflows from those values, from the core values. I'll give you a quick example. One of the values of the culture guy is people can do amazing things if we are cheerleaders and not critics. So everything we do at the culture guy is about cheering people on. Yes, that doesn't mean we don't challenge them, but we do it in a way that builds them up, doesn't crush them. And so when everybody understands that, when everybody's pulling in that direction, people might behave in different ways in different contexts, but I am absolutely certain that everybody that interacts with us will go away feeling like their shoulders are higher, they're feeling happier about themselves because they've interacted with us. And I can't define all those touch points, and I can't define all the behaviors or all the contexts, but I'm absolutely certain that any interaction somebody has, they'll go away feeling a little better about themselves because they've done that.
Fantastic. Is that why you're wearing the yellow jumper today?
Absolutely. Courage. It's actually from a charity. It's called the Courage Foundation, and it works with families who have experienced loss of a child, and they help them kind of get through that. And they give away theme park tickets, essentially. So what they try and do is help them create new memories, new happy memories, even though they never kind of lose the pain of what's happened. They try and help them kind of move through. Just from a local charity. But yes, courage is a great slogan. That's
a great one. Yeah, really like it. So how can we improve our culture?
If you're having problems with your culture, if you've got an issue where your people are potentially moaning, you're constantly having to manage and firefight, there's often a problem with your culture. And what you've got to do is go back and start with, what are we trying to build here? What are our core values? What are the things that are important in being us? And then you've got to figure out how to duplicate the behaviors that go with it. How do we make sure that everything we do, through the people we hire, to the marketing and the language and the way we talk, to all the systems and processes, how do we make sure they line up with what we've defined as our core values? And if they don't line up, you've got one or two things you can do. One, you can decide that actually they're not really our core values and we've been making it up. Or two, we need to fix the behaviors so they reflect those core values. But you've got to start with a real understanding and a real definition of who are we? What is important in being us? What are our core values?
Yeah, very interesting. So it's I don't know why you were talking about that. I just had this image of a theater stage. So is culture a bit like having a script, like a script and putting a show on stage, and then and just basically allowing the customers as well as the people working for the company to kind of play their own characters on that stage, but of course the culture is the stage. I don't know what you think about that. Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little like that. It's more improvisation. I always use the analogy of a playing field. I coach rugby, and my job is in training to give the players the skills they need, to give them an understanding of the game, to give them an understanding of the tactics they can use, and to put in place a game plan and to talk to them about how we're going to play the game in front of us. And I teach them the rules, and I show them where the edge of the pitch is. But when they walk on that pitch, they are making the decisions. They are doing things moment by moment and making decisions based on what I've taught them, based on what they know, based on where the playing field is, but they're getting on with it. And culture is a little like defining that playing field and setting up the rules. And then you let people go and play their game.
Fantastic. I want to go back to the beginning just because I'm really curious about your story, your personal story. So how did you come up with this new brand, this new idea, and how did you decide to become the culture guy? So what's your background? What's your origin story?
Yeah, it took me a long time to get to this point, and I've been around the houses. I started life working for a bank, building internet banks back in the day, and then I toured with a theatre company for a while. I'm a trained child protection social worker as well. I've worked in retail, I've worked in education, and all through this, I'm watching people going, I don't understand why you're doing that. That's not the best way to go about it, to give your people what they need to succeed. If you want to succeed doing this, you need to give your people more space. Why are we doing it like this? And in the back of my head, I'm like, but you must know something I don't. You're the CEO. You must know something I don't. And it took about 20 years to realize they absolutely didn't know something I didn't. They just didn't know what they were doing. And it took me a long time to get the confidence to realize that actually I could see things that other people couldn't in that cultural space, in that way of working that would really unlock people's potential and productivity. And so I started to write some of those things down and put it into a book, and people started to read the book, and then they phoned me up and said, actually, the book's really helpful. Can you come and help us? And so I kind of fell into it, but it took me a really long time to realize that I could see something that other people couldn't, that there was actually something there that they didn't see.
And what's your mission, Benjamin?
For me, I would love to see every person in this country go to work excited and energized and full of life and come home at the end of the day feeling like they've done something worthwhile. Can you imagine the impact that would have on the mood of the nation if we got that right? So actually, one organization at a time, that's what I'm aiming for.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a good way of ending this video. Thank you so much, Benjamin. So how do people can find out more about you?
If you want to get in touch with me, the website is here on the screen, thecultureguy.co.uk. But if you get onto Google and search for The Culture Guy, I will appear there at the top like magic.
They can't miss you. So thank you again. I hope this video is inspiring to all our audience, and see you for the next Espresso. Thank you so much again, Benjamin. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Riccardo.